start the meeting. And I would just like to make a couple of introductions just to get us started. I think everybody knows Aaron Ruby, our architect, who's done a great job so far. And then we've also got Mr. Brownlee, which I don't know how many people have met him, and he's working on our behalf to oversee it as well. So anyway, so what I'm going to do, just kind of bring everybody up to speed, and then we do have a few things to talk about, but I'm going to let Aaron speak right now and kind of talk to us about, I think he has copies for everyone.
Yeah, so hopefully, I don't know if I've got copies enough for everyone. I think 12 copies. I know there's probably enough for everybody on the board here. So if you wanted to take one sheet, pass it down, and Rick, same view. I was just going to follow this rough outline and just hit on the basics on where we're at with the project. So take one, pass it around, and there may be a few extras for the back row. I'll try to speak up. So we had a project meeting this morning at 10 o'clock. We met with CNI's general contractor, and Porter and I both, and we're meeting every couple weeks, every 3 weeks sometimes, depending on where we're at with project schedule. But essentially just starting off with the first item on the agenda there, just to give you an idea where we're at with the project. It is going full steam. So to this point in time, we've reviewed about 100 submittals, sets of shop drawings on the project. Those submittals, those are basically what we require the general contractor to send us proof of what they're putting in will meet what we've drawn and specified. So that's an opportunity for us to really look it over real carefully and send it back to them. Most of those submittals are approved. There's a handful where we request resubmittals. So some of these things we're looking at 2 or 3 times, crossing our T's, dotting our I's. The foundation is going in right now. So they've got geo-piers done. Piers are holes they drill into the earth. They're right now excavating for the footings. So they've poured some of the footings right now, putting rebar in the ground on the addition. In the old courthouse, they've finished up most of the demolition for the most part. It's an empty shell inside. You can see the old construction. They're beginning framing of the new walls. We've seen some plaster samples where they're having to patch the plaster to match the old. We met this afternoon with the security camera people, Homeland Safety Systems, who Mississippi County has worked with before in the past on security cameras, access controls at the doors. Since they've worked with the county before at the prison and at the Osceola courthouse, same system. So the sheriff's department is familiar with their equipment. It will interface well, so we don't have to retrain people on a new system. It works countywide, at least where you put them so far. So we're getting them plugged in. They're beginning the rough end of all the mechanical systems, electrical systems, plumbing. So rough end is happening right now. The contractor would like to start on underground utilities on the site, basically starting off with the storm drain. So for the site that has to drain, taking it into underground storm drains to tie into the city's storm drain system. So that's stuff they want to take care of right away. As far as the schedule goes, we have an updated schedule from CNI this morning that shows that they are finishing at the end of July. And so you'll see that right now on the construction schedule, date of substantial completion as it is right now by contract, May the 7th, pending the approval of the second change order. We're adding 45 days to that schedule. Most of that is some delays from the roofing contractor to get out of the way so that the general contractor can start on the addition. So that would basically carry the date of substantial completion to June 11th. So right now their schedule is showing in July. You can see what I'm saying here. In my experience, based on where they're at, what I see, I think it's likely that it will go past July. So I just want to make sure I'm telling you guys what I think. But really, CNI is responsible for the schedule. That's a question that you really need to ask them. They are telling us they don't think they're going to need that much extra time. They're telling us that they believe they can finish by May when the original contract says, so they won't want to make up that time. So that's where we're at schedule-wise. Construction budget. So the original bid was $11,098,000, and we've got change order 1, which is complete, which is a mix of credits and adds to the project, which net add of $18,428.41. Change order number 2 is pending. We've got that in the hands of the CNI to sign. That would add up approximately 62, exactly 62,666.86, bringing their total to $11,179,095. I've got a detailed spreadsheet which I'll hand out after I go through the rest of the summary, because it'll make your head explode. But I wanted a chance to explain this because it's very comprehensive and confusing. But we're making our best effort to track that budget over time. So we go over that in a minute. So item 3B, you're seeing proposal request summary. So a proposal request is when we're formally asking a contractor for a price, change in scope, which can either add to the scope or take away from the scope, often both. And so I'm giving you an update on things that I know will probably have an impact on the cost. We just have to wait on that information. We're up to proposal request number 12. So there are 11 previous price changes, some credits, some adds. Most of those would be included by contract in change orders 1 and 2. And it addresses their change order number 2, pending acceptance, addresses a number of these proposal requests. We can go over those in detail if you'd like to. We're awaiting revisions on a handful. There are some additional proposal requests that we just sent out to CNI yesterday. One of them has to do with adding an exhaust fan at the Sally Port. We don't have an exhaust fan at the Sally Port. We have enclosed doors so that when a sheriff's department pulls in, the engine is running, hopefully not long, but there's not an exhaust fan, so a way to sort of exit those fumes from the Sally Port. So that's just a price basically to get what would it cost to put in an exhaust fan to exhaust those fumes. Remove asbestos from the courtroom ceiling. It was discovered, this actually may be some good news. There has been a test for some asbestos and some glue that was used to affix acoustical panels. It was found to contain asbestos. We have assumed that that is on the ceiling and on the walls. After looking more closely, we think it's just on the walls, not on the ceiling, which would significantly change the price that we have at hand right now for the abatement contractor to remove asbestos in the glue on the ceiling, because it's hard to get to. So that's better news than where we're at right now. The cost that the county had to remove all the asbestos that we thought we had was upwards of $40,000.
$41,820, I believe.
So that would potentially come down
Yeah.
significantly if it turns out we don't have. The asbestos guy is going to come back to do some additional testing, I think, just to make sure.
Yeah.
Now, is that in the 60, where is that? Is that number included over here in the, is that included on this side at all yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Just,
Yeah, so, yep, it is not yet. So the proposal requests are not yet shown right
Okay.
here, other than, I only show the change orders.
Gotcha.
So this budget that I'm going to show you only includes what's official.
Gotcha.
So these proposal requests, I'm just kind of giving you guys a summary of those things that are out there. Cost changes that they happen. That's why we have a contingency. Changes to courtroom millwork. We don't really anticipate a change in price, but we've met with the judges and we're going to change around where the jury box is. And the amount of millwork really doesn't change. It just sort of moves from here to there. There's some minor changes, but it very well may be a wash. But we're waiting on CNI to tell us that. And then the repairs to the front entry balcony. We've left this off kind of intentionally until we got a closer look at it, but there's the concrete balcony on the front of the courthouse that we're not really doing any work on right now. We would like to address the concrete and the waterproofing of that concrete deck. It is real simple to do. There's a product that Sika makes that basically is liquid applied, very viscous material that enters into the concrete and protects the reinforcement bars in the concrete, and then we can put a top coating over it. It's a very small area, so it would not be significant, but we don't have that in the scope right now. We would like to add it. And then allowances summary, which we'll talk about here in a second. So I will pass around this spreadsheet. If you want to take one copy and pass it around. And again, I apologize to everybody else in the room that may not be able to have a copy in front of you. I'd be happy to distribute electronically. Just let me know. But let me explain what you're seeing here, because like I said, there's a lot to it. This budget is an attempt to, let's get as many out there as we can. The budget's an attempt to track where we are right now, but compare it to where we've been in the past. So we're trying to give you an idea of how it's trending. So the column that matters on the spreadsheet is the one on the far right that's outlined in the red square. That's our current picture. To the left of that red box, you can see at the top are the dates where we began. Pre-design, schematics, during construction. And if you look at the bottom line, you can see how those numbers have fluctuated over time. We're doing pretty good. You can see that where we were, where we thought we might be in, when this thing was about to go out to bid. We're in a much better spot now than we thought we might end up. So in our opinion, we think Mississippi County is getting a very good bargain on what's being designed right now. It's confusing because a lot of stuff is shifting around. Whereas before, we were planning on some things at the top end of the budget, now it's down here. So I apologize for that part, but we're just doing that as a way to sort of compare apples to apples. Further, if you see the colored cells, if you're seeing a cell that's light blue, that's a cost that we know that is not going to fluctuate. So in general terms, the more blue you see, the better, because it's pinned down. All these budgets are moving targets. If it is a yellow cell, that's a number that we know is true. It's not a budget number, it's an actual figure, but we expect it will fluctuate. So we are beginning to pin things down over time as things develop. Another category that you might be interested in is in the center of the page, this outlined box called allowances summary. So this little shaded area right here, those allowances, those figures that you see, line number 31 is for the period chandelier restoration of original lobby fixtures. You see there's an original allowance amount of $120,000. And then right on down the list, A, B, C, D, all the way down to site furnishings.
Aaron,
Yeah.
you might clarify that those allowances are included in the construction budget.
Correct.
I mean, in the 11 million.
Correct. So you see all those allowances add up to $546,000. That $546,000 is within the CNI bid price. So the $11,098,000 bid price that's in the contract right now includes those numbers. So these aren't additional to the project. They're just allowances in the bid. It's basically $546,000 in CNI's contract that we just go shopping, basically. But these are earmarks of things that we knew this project would probably require, which is why we put it in there. These allowances are guesses for the most part, but the big ones were known, we didn't guess. The period chandelier fixture, $128,000, that's not for one chandelier, that was for the large chandelier in the courtroom, plus the restoration of 4 original fixtures hanging in the lobby. So there's that pretty brass torchère on the marble stair, and 3 pendant fixtures in the lobby. All of those we wanted to have done by St. Louis Antique Lighting Company, because it's what they do, and they do a really good job. So they've been involved from the get-go to help us establish that scope and give us what is possible. That's how we arrived at that figure. In reality, you can see it's blue. We got a firm price from them for all that work for significantly less than $120,000. So that number, the difference that you see, the $21,704.72, that's how far we're under budget in that category. So we were able to get done what we want to get done for less. Same thing with the next one, the AV systems. So AV systems is audiovisual for the courtrooms, so speakers, microphones, monitors, a system where lawyers can present evidence to the jury. There's monitors there at the jury box so the jurors can see what's being presented. It makes it a lot easier for the court reporter to hear and plug into what's being said. It just makes a lot of sense to have that system in those courtrooms. So we have been working with a vendor to give us an idea of cost, and we've been tracking that over time. It's a $300,000 line item for that, for AV systems in all 3 courtrooms. And we've got a firm quote from them for $293,517, so we're under budget on that. So if you follow that down to the bottom of the allowances box, you see a allowance subtotal savings of $28,187.61. Do you see that? So we carry that over to the right and we subtract that number from our total budget so we can see that it has an impact on the bottom line. The rest of those allowances are blank because we still got to go figure that stuff out. But we know you're going to need to have signage. We know that there's a desire to do some displays inside for the Medal of Honor winner. A part of this project has included a set of displays to talk about Mississippi County history. So the design, if you recall, has the records of the county clerk and circuit clerk kind of on display. So the neat old books and county records that have all those historical documents were going to be in a corridor so that where visitors, citizens could walk through the old courthouse to the new courthouse. They'll walk past all these documents that are on display, but they'll be behind these decorative panels that give us the chance to tell the history of Mississippi County and put on display old, like maybe the original marriage record or something in Mississippi County, or an old document with some handwritten instruments. So just an opportunity to kind of show off a little bit of Mississippi County history. So that's an example, I think, of things that we've had in our mind that we budgeted for that just needs to be further defined. So our goal obviously is to stay within budget on every one of these things. You can see the rest of the line items. The top portion of the page covers the construction cost, as well as all the other things that we've considered. On down, the bottom part of the page covers the re-roof project. So we're looking at the cost of both the Blytheville Courthouse and the Osceola Courthouse. There's a total contract from Renaissance Roofing for that whole project, but we've asked them to divide out how much of this is Osceola, how much is Blytheville. The Osceola project is more, it's just, there's more to it, more intricate. And then on the lower left corner, that re-roof summary, we have defined how much of those costs are each to those projects. We related our fee on that project and divided it by the same ratio that the contract is, so we're just sort of fairly distributing how our fee works for those jobs in order to arrive at a figure that can be counted against the original $2 million obligation to Osceola, so that we can arrive at that figure. So that's $847,308 that remains to Osceola. We carry that on over to the right-hand side. You can see that that is an amount that is earmarked for Osceola that we're accounting for. So basically the bottom line is, as we stand right now, there's $350,000 contingency in the project that's unaccounted, that's just not earmarked. It's a contingency. That is outside the allowances, outside of all these other line items. After that contingency, after the cost obligation, after the re-roof, after everything that we know, we're basically around $43,000 remaining in the bond issue. So we made our best effort at accounting for everything we know we can account for. We've made a serious effort to track the money and be as responsible as we can be. We take our responsibility seriously. We know you have a tough job, and making sure you're answering to the people you answer to on staying within budget. We're doing the best we can to help you. So that's where we're at. Any questions?
Okay, these top expenses, looking at the, got source cost, construction, testing, inspection, I know those are, were those originally, are those in the original bid?
Yes. So everywhere where you see an asterisk mark,
Was in the original bid?
it's in the bid. It originally was a line item that was outside. When we were accounting for it, we were accounting for it outside the contract cost, but it is now in the contract. So anything that you see an asterisk by is now within the contract cost.
Okay, so the security camera systems was not, because there's not an asterisk there.
Yeah, so you're talking about line number 19?
Yeah.
Yeah, so look to the right, it says C line 55. So whereas before, we had a 326 figure at the top end of the line, right now, it's down here towards the bottom. We just moved it. That's the confusing part, is because it just, we've tried to line up we're trying to be faithful to what we've shown you in the past.
Okay.
So these are previous budgets that we presented, and we've kept them faithful to the way in which we submitted them. But we have switched up what's in the contract now versus what it was before. So that's why things are.
I think what his question is, so if I'm understanding correctly, Homeland Security bid that part themselves. That was not included in the CNI bid. Is
Correct.
that right? Yeah.
That's why I moved, because they have a separate contract now with Mississippi County.
Okay, and I understand that they're gonna bid out things that they don't do themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to determine, how much of this top portion is in that original bid?
How much of?
How much of like the anticipated increase, well, the anticipated cost of it and
Oh, yeah.
tariffs, those had to be added in later, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's what brought it from 1198 to 11179.
Yeah, so,
But, okay, the improved period light.
Yeah.
Was that in the original bid?
no,
Or is that part of the allowances?
it's part of the allowance. So that's where we have an asterisk by that one, we say C line
And the painting
31.
at the large courtroom, was that in the original?
That is still a allowance item, or actually, it's not an allowance. So an allowance is an amount of money that's within the CNI bid.
Okay.
So all of these figures that you're seeing down here, below the allowances,
Mhm.
those are outside of CNI's bid. They're additional costs to the project, but they're not included in that 11 million figure.
Okay, so some of these up top weren't in the 11 million either.
Correct.
Okay, my concern,
Well, wait, I'm sorry. Everything up top, everything up here
Mhm.
is now in the 11 million, with the exception of security cameras.
okay, so everything there is in that 11 million.
Correct.
So the Sally Port doors at $234,880, that's in that 11 million.
Correct. Yeah.
My only concern is when you say we've got a contingency of 350,000 left over.
Right.
On a project this size, I'm worried about running over that.
Understand.
And what I want to know is there something in here that we can say we're going to just hold to the end of the project?
Yeah.
Like landscaping, you're not going to do that till the building's complete.
Correct. Yeah.
Because I would like to know that we've got at least, I'd like a $750,000 contingency.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I worked around construction too long not to know that it's easy to hit that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I want to know is there things in here that we can say, we're not going to have to spend this till the end, because I don't want to have to take any money out of county general.
Understand.
I think we've allotted enough to do it.
Yeah.
I just don't know that some of these things we can't do a little less with.
Right. I understand.
I want a pretty building, I want a functional building, but I want it within budget.
Yeah.
And I think what you're telling me and the way it sounded, we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
But we may need to wait about some of these things a little bit closer.
Yeah.
Now, why, and I'm just gonna throw this out there, originally we had wrought iron gates on the Sally Port.
Right.
And I understand the security issue.
Right.
Was there any thought to screening the back of those so that people couldn't see in? Would it still allow for airflow?
Not very far. I mean, I want to say that we sort of initially thought, well, can we add some Lexan or something to the back of the gate where it'll address the initial concern was the open gates don't really provide enough security access for
Right, you
prisoners.
want them to not be able to see in. That's
Yeah.
what I say, some type of screen that you can put
Yeah.
on it. They have all types of metal screening that you can attach to the back of it.
Yeah,
That has very small holes in it, which will allow light in, but it's very hard to see through.
yeah. Yeah, well, I'll admit, I didn't take that thought very far. Honestly, that being the new front of the building, these are large doors that if we're gonna put a solid door there, or if it's a solid screen, I didn't think about what you were describing, but it needs to look good. So I was worried that a typical overhead door on that prominent elevation would look bad on a building of this type, size, and budget. That it would just,
Well, I'm just asking the question because personally, I kind of like the wrought iron door look
Yeah.
better.
yeah,
But, you know, if you, and his,
Yeah.
speaking with the sheriff's department, the main concern is that people could see in.
yeah,
Well, you obviously can't see you can't shoot what you can't see.
right. Yeah, you're asking a good question. I have
And
not.
would it have been, and then the thing is, would it have been less than what
Yes.
the option we're going with?
Oh, yes, yeah. Yeah, it'd be less. I want to say, well, when we budgeted this first line here for pre-design, you know, when we were budgeting for Baldwin and Shell, they based that number on the gates. Now, we don't have that, well, I mean, I don't have it with me, but we have an individual, and I want to say it was like 30 or 40,000 for gates. That didn't include the screening that you're talking about, but that's quite a bit less than the 250 is what the
So
selling.
what I would like to know is, say we get to the first of the year, and we realize all of a sudden, oh, we're gonna be coming real close.
Yeah,
Is that something we could switch?
Not at the first of the year.
yeah, no.
If you wanna swap it, today is
Right
the
now.
day.
Yeah, so I'll
Well,
just,
and that's my concern, because, you know, I'm looking at things that we can hold off on.
yeah,
If we spend every dime to make the courthouse look good and makes it functional, that's fine.
yeah,
But
I-
don't come back and say you need 10 cents out of general fund.
I understand. Yeah, I mean, to try to, I understand what you're getting at. Honestly, I think the places that you're gonna wanna focus are gonna be these things down here at the bottom.
Okay.
Where at, which one?
The parts down here.
The audio video.
Below, yeah, well, below allowances, audio visual potentially. We have not pulled the trigger yet on audio visual. That number actually will come down because that number was based on the previous courtroom layout. And it had intermediate rails for all for the rows of jurors. And each pair of juror had his own monitor. So they had very clear ability to see what was being presented. We're going to get 18 jurors now instead of 12 in the jury box. That, just space requirements being what they are, we have to get rid of those intermediate rails. That means get rid of monitors too. So just as a result of some of the things that got changed, I think that AV number will come down some. So it is still possible, and based on what you're telling me
So
now,
while you got the 293 in there, it may come in more closer to 200,000.
I don't think it'll drop that far. I was thinking 290. I'm being facetious. It won't drop 200, but it will drop some. I don't. If you hold a gun to my head and say how much it's going to be, I know there's 4 monitors that are gone, plus there's some monitors in the back. It may drop 20,000, so 270 maybe. It won't be significant. You know, we do have control over the rest of the allowance items. There has not been any headway in the way of signage, you know, appliances. You know, if somebody wants to make a good deal on refrigerators for the, you know, hey, let me know, we'll save that money. AED equipment, you know, the courthouse is going to have AEDs. We looked at the cost of those things and probably need to get AEDs. So site furnishings, benches, trash receptacles, normally you have those things. Normally there's a signage out front, Mississippi County Courthouse. Do you have to have it? No. We're going to have Mississippi County Courthouse etched on the cornice. Maybe that's good enough. We do have an allowance in the project for public art. Oftentimes on courthouses, it's a requirement of federal government, but oftentimes in places like this, a public gathering of public significance, there's an opportunity for doing some art. No, you don't have to do that.
And my thing is that stuff that we can look at later
Yes.
in this.
Yes,
Because like I say, I don't mind spending our budget, but I do mind going over our budget.
yeah, I understand.
And that's what I'm looking for, and I think that's what everybody's concerned about. Are there places that we get down to the first of the year and we realize, hey, we've got a big hit on something that we can trim back?
Right. Yeah,
Well, okay, I think, so if I could speak for just 1 second to that. So right now, like what I think Aaron's trying to tell us on the Sallyport doors is we're about to pull the trigger on the Sallyport doors. So if there's any changes, or if we would like for him to look at, look into the gates with something on the back, now is the time to do it. A lot of these things have, some of them are like the period chandelier, that's already done. That's already gone and fit. You see what I'm
And
saying?
it's in the original budget, so
Yeah.
that's not an issue.
yeah,
So, well,
The $234,000 for selling 4 doors wasn't originally in there.
Correct.
It was quite a bit less.
yeah.
I think I would like to hear
Ask price, yeah,
a price of what it would take to screen the back of those so that people couldn't see in.
sure.
Because looking at that drawing, I actually like the wrought iron doors better than
I did too.
Yeah.
the,
Yeah,
I haven't even seen the
and if
movie.
that's, if those are gonna be nice,
Yeah.
that would be great, because I would like there to be a refrigerator for the.
yeah, right. Yeah, I'm sure they appreciate it.
and if I'm not mistaken, even if you put an exhaust fan, you need to be able to pull fresh air in, that would.
That goes
go
away.
with that.
Right.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
that, while we're looking at it, let's look at that and see if that's a cost savings that we want to take.
All right, yeah,
Aaron, I think, and this, what I'm about to say is not a criticism. This is an observation as a court member.
okay,
Our original estimates, when we had this approved, when we went into it, was 13,000, and I'm looking at your spreadsheet,
yeah,
with 13,198,884.
correct,
That's as of 10/23/2018.
correct,
The spreadsheet that I looked at yesterday was, the project was up to 15,781,648. And the thing that concerns me as a court member,
yeah,
if you take the difference in those two numbers, it's 19.85% more than what we started with, than what we estimated in the beginning.
okay,
So we're 20% over our original estimate.
okay,
And I know that there's a lot of things out there, I'm right, Justice Rich, there's a lot of things out there, that does not include taking down the tower, that does not include any kind of landscaping, signage, and we're already at 19.85% above the original estimate.
well,
That concerns me.
I understand. Now, so if I look at based on at least what I've done right here, that original estimate, 13.198, in October of 18, if we're comparing apples to apples and everything, carry that line on over, the comparative figure is 13,744, not the 15 million. And that does include landscape and all that stuff. So,
But I think you have to take into consideration the 13,198, you had $1 million contingency, and now you only have a $350,000.
Correct.
I mean, that's a big difference.
Yeah, yes, I'm goofing the numbers. Now, there was a jump. Part of what explains that big jump was when we came back and started the project really in earnest in 2019, and then in May of 19 was the next chance we had a chance to update the budget. Scope did increase at that point. Sallyport doors, the tariffs. We knew the tariffs were having an impact, and we knew that was going to have an impact on bottom line. At that point, Chickasaw Street was going to come out, and landscaping was going to go up as a result. So we updated the budget, kind of knowing there's going to be a jump. The good news in that, in reality, I don't think those things came to pass. So even though we estimated at the time that additional parking lot across the street was gonna cost $599,000, that was a number that Paul Michelle gave us in the beginning, because at that time it was presented as an additive alternate, like an option. But we knew right off the bat that was not gonna be an option. The idea, we're gonna build that parking lot. It's just gonna be included in the base bid. I think if you were, well, I know, we look at the scheduled values from CNI, it's not worth $599. I think it's probably much less than that. So there's a lot of guesswork, I guess, on the front end. But yeah, I would say there's been an increase in budget, both in terms of scope, the additional landscaping closing in Chickasaw, and the typical increase in construction costs that you see between 2018 and the project actually bids a year later in 2019.
Well, I mean, I don't know much about it, but from appearances, common sense would say there's only two places, additional cost on items that have gone up, material and so forth, and then additional change orders.
Mhm.
And evidently, there's been about, between the cost and the change orders, there's been about $2.6 million difference.
Hmm.
That's what concerns me.
Yeah.
And I mean, what's done is done. I'm not going back and criticizing. I don't mean it as criticism, but it concerns me greatly that we're down basically, if you want to put the 350,000 and the 43,000 on the bottom, we've got about $400,000 sitting there to take care of every unforeseen thing that comes in the future. Everything above that is going to have to come out of county general.
Correct.
So
yeah.
that concerns me.
Understand.
And I know you're tracking it, and I have all the confidence in the world in you. It sure does not, I don't mean it as a criticism.
No, I appreciate that you're not looking to me as if I'm perfect, because I'm not. No one is. So you're 100% right. We're doing our best, and that's as good as we can promise.
I don't want you to take anything I said as criticism. I'm just asking to watch and see if there are places where we can hold it down. I would like to see the solid court door, the gates back with the possibilities of screening
Yeah.
behind them.
And that could also potentially reduce the amount of the second change order as well, because that's where they were being painted, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah, you're 100% right. So yeah,
If we took that off, then we take the cost of painting them off, so we could have a potential savings of at least $180,000
yes,
there.
I think so.
That added to the 350, that puts us at
Oh yeah.
530.
Yeah.
So it's getting me a little more comfortable because just knowing about construction, what we're looking at. And
Yeah.
since the landscaping would be at the last, if we had to, we could scale that back at that point in time
Yeah.
and have potential savings there.
Yes.
In the landscaping, is the irrigation included in that number, or is we're irrigating the land?
Yeah, we are irrigating, and it's included in that number.
Okay, so, just,
I got two questions.
All right.
All right. One is the decorative
Well-
painting in the large courtroom. What is that? What are we talking about?
Let me back up a minute because I think I misspoke. Yes, thank you. Because I'm thinking landscaping and irrigation is currently in 11,980. So I think I had a landscaping cost. At one time, it was kind of a separate budget. But that 11,098,000 includes landscaping and irrigation. So that is in the project right now. So let's see, where do we have landscaping?
14.
Yeah, 14. So at one time, it was, see it's at the top, improved landscaping 202. That's what we were assuming. It just didn't turn out to be that case. You go to the right, you can see there's an asterisk there. That means landscaping is in CNI's cost. So it's true that landscaping doesn't happen until the end of the project. It's true that we can make changes if you want. However, that means you've got to pay us, or you got to pay the landscape architect to redesign something, which is possible, but we have to go back on some stuff we've done. So that stuff is in the project as it is, at least that part of it.
So our biggest thing is we need to watch the spending in the allowances area
Yeah,
as much as possible.
correct.
Okay. So, how many staff lounges are we going to have?
Just one.
One. And I'm assuming these are going to be stainless steel appliances or
Yeah.
the latest thing.
Yeah, yeah, well, it was one thing that we did we knew space would be limited in the project, and we were trying to limit the amount of space. Each office just won't have a lot of space for
Right.
their own refrigerator and coffee machine and, in each suite. So we've got a large staff lounge that's meant to be a shared lounge for everybody in the building. So you'll have one space for all that stuff.
Okay. What is, on 35, no, I'm sorry, 36.
Uh-huh.
What is this hall 108 and 208 display?
Yeah, so that's the display that I was talking about, that would display historical records. So if you can imagine, in the old courthouse, in the northeast corner of the old courthouse, we're taking out one of those windows, and this is a doorway that's going to link the old courthouse into the addition. And it links to the new public lobby. So the public can walk, access from the new public lobby, they can get into the old courthouse through this new hallway at the northeast corner of the old courthouse.
Peggy's old office.
Right. And so within her office, that is right now, we're going to put the large layout tables that the county clerk and the city, on one floor will be the county clerk, second floor will be the circuit clerk, records that they have, the large layout tables and books. There'll be someone on display. They're going to be in that room. We didn't want the public to just be able to walk in and access it without being under supervision. So we were planning these decorative panels that are on stainless steel cables that will allow you to real nifty way to silk screen or put on these laminate panels images of old county documents or historical photographs of the county. That hallway was going to be sort of a mini museum exhibit. So there's going to be an opportunity for us to put up displays of county history and stuff. So
I just want to know what it was. I didn't.
that's what it is, yeah. We have not pinned it down firmly. It's just hanging out there. It's an idea. It is based in some reality. We've talked to people that do this stuff. We're pretty confident that our budget number is doable. But it has not been pinned down yet.
The 57, the decorative, large decorative paint, what is that? I mean, what kind of painting is this?
Yeah, so as it is right now, the courtroom will just be painted, a couple different colors as it is right now, but not mauve. It'll be a different color. But what we would like to be able to do is bring in a decorative painter, someone that just can take it up a notch. It goes from just paint on the walls to, they do murals, they do very high-end prints to give some dimension and architectural interest to the courtroom. It's basically taking it up from just the courtroom that it is right now, just the space it is right now, and really taking it up a notch with the finishes in the room. So,
So you're talking about, you're talking about this person painting the entire courtroom?
yes.
And
Well, they won't touch every surface. For that budget, what we have in mind is mostly the ceiling. So the ceiling has acoustical panels, and there's crown mold, and there's beams, and triglyphs, as they're called, the little Greek symbols. So there's just a way to treat all that, and the beams themselves, the undersides of the beams are very flat and unadorned, very basic. It would be nice for us to be able to do some additional painting on the undersides of those beams to really step up the level of finish in that room.
so this is one reason we need to sit down and talk to you, because we don't know a lot of things. When somebody says decorative painting, and we're thinking about one painting. We're thinking about a painting that hangs on the wall.
Gotcha.
That you're going to spend $120,000 on.
Gotcha.
So that's why, just like the chandelier, that's not a chandelier, that's 4 light fixtures. You're purchasing one and repairing 3. So, I mean,
Right.
that's stuff that we didn't know. We thought we
Yeah.
was just gonna buy one chandelier that was gonna cost a fortune.
Correct.
And that is also installed, so that's a
Correct.
big, I mean, and I think that's a big
Yeah.
thing to point out, that
Yeah.
that's getting it here, getting all the light fixtures, I mean, that's a,
It's turnkey.
It helps everybody though, because I mean, you know, because when it gets put in the paper, it's, you know,
I understand.
we're all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's one something, and the whole public, the whole county,
Right.
they're gonna spend $120,000 on chandelier.
Right, no.
$120,000 on painting.
Yeah.
And
It
then-
looked like one chandelier.
Yeah, and they're
Yeah, I
gonna
understand.
run us out of the county on rail, you know?
Yeah, I understand. And you've asked, Rick, you know, and we understand without you even having to, I mean, we knew this, that we're looking for opportunities to make sure that we're not going over budget. There's an opportunity. It's a huge room. It's a large courtroom. One 8-foot triple tier chandelier is good sized chandelier, but it's not going to provide enough light for that room. You need more light. So in the bid, we've got four additional fixtures in that room. Now they're modern, but we would certainly love to have St. Louis Antique Lighting provide 4 more chandeliers that are matching of that other one. But it's a lot more money. So we're scaling back. We've found places where we can just, you know, yes, we would prefer to go this extra mile in these areas, but we are finding ways of scaling back to try to help the bottom line as much as possible. So we are doing that, and
when would, just on that line item, when would that need to be decided? Is that something that would,
the lighting,
no, the decorative painting?
that decision has not been made firmly, so we don't yet have a firm figure from the vendor that we have in mind there. But
You do have a vendor.
we have a vendor in mind. Evergreen Painting is out of New York. They do a lot of really nice stuff. It's not quite, I mean, they have the ability to really hit a home run for us in this room. They're involved with the state capitol. They've done a lot of this work before, and I think they do a fantastic job. The courtroom is the grand space in the building, and so we've always just wanted to make sure that courtroom is treated the way we would like to treat it. It's the most significant space in the courtroom, arguably the county. So we have wanted to make that special.
Say a lot of things, if we could have an example of that, where we could look at what you're talking about.
Yeah,
You know,
I can, yeah.
And also these other Sallyport doors, if we don't end up with these wrought iron ones, you know, I don't even know what they're looking like, these.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I would like to see that.
I'll bring
Sure.
a picture next time. I meant to bring a picture. I have a
Yeah,
picture.
sure, I can send that to you.
But, the other question I had, and I'm done, I think, I hope. The 847 that's left at Osceola,
Right,
what are our plans for the Osceola courthouse? 'Cause I'm getting a lot of people asking, and they,
yeah.
you know, a lot of people think, well, did we really need the copper dome redone? I mean,
Yes, I was on a scaffold this morning, and I can share with you photographs of things that I wasn't able to see before without close-up
Getting
access. You'd be shocked at what you would see. Yes, that copper dome absolutely has to be replaced. It's in really bad shape.
okay.
We're doing the right thing as far as that copper dome goes. Where would we put the rest of that money? I don't know. I do know. I know what I would recommend. But that decision hadn't been made. Do I?
I'd like to hear what you recommend.
Yeah, so,
If I could ask one question
Yeah.
real quick. Now, at one time, there was talk of forming a committee in Osceola to help prioritize the things that they wanted done. Is that committee in effect, or was it was it made, or?
I don't
The
know.
judge was gonna, he talked about it, I don't know if he ever did anything with it or not.
Okay, so I want to clarify, is the 847,000 left over or after the roof is done?
Yes,
Or, okay, so
Yeah.
the roof is going to be the
yes,
1.15.
correct.
But we were all down there Tuesday night,
Oh, there's plenty to be done.
and if you go into that building and look, the amount of work that needs to be done there far exceeds $800,000.
Oh, yeah. You could,
Well,
So
it needs another,
there's
That's
no
one
way we
reason
14
I want to
million.
see what's left over in this contingency.
Yeah, more money we can save here could be spent down there.
That's
We
right.
do need to spend more money down there.
We will have to spend more money.
Yeah, I was in there one night, I don't know if it was the year before you came on the court, but a storm blew in. I thought, oh, the blinds are gonna come over here to get us.
So what was your recommendation?
Well, I would still stay on the outside. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on the terracotta. So all the terracotta trim on the dome itself and on the cornice needs a lot of work. Windows. The windows on the second floor are falling to pieces, literally. I can show you photographs. We do have a grant application in right now to the preservation program to request funding to take care of windows, but also to address electrical and HVAC in the building. There's window units that are in the windows to provide it, but we would like to pull those out. We gotta have air conditioning for that. So there's a lot to it, and windows are a big need, but mostly on the exterior, terracotta. Mostly that's stuff up high that gets the most abuse. It's hardest to reach while we've got scaffolding there. We would love to be able to address all that terracotta.
And some of that stuff is close to falling, am I correct? Or?
I wouldn't say the terracotta is close to falling. The windows are. There are some sashes on the second floor that are in really bad shape. The glass has slipped so much. The lower rail of the double hung window has fallen out of place. The glass has fallen down. So there's a half-inch gap between the top of the sash and the glass. So the windows are in the second floor in really bad shape. But the terracotta, there's one in the northeast corner of the terracotta corner. So there's a couple pieces of terracotta that have fallen out. There's a hole up there.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So in some areas, yeah, there's the potential that some of them could be falling. We don't know to what degree, it may be worse.
Well, that's a safety issue.
It is, for sure. So that, we would like to take care of that, and, yeah, the rest of the terracotta.
And you got a grant in for the windows and the AC, is that what you said?
Correct.
What kind,
How much money?
Oh, for the grant application, I think we asked for $250,000. It's rare that the preservation program gives you that much. So I don't know. I think you'll hear in June sometime when that comes back.
and we can turn around and play again next year? Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah, you can, apply every year.
You
Yeah.
mentioned the terracotta cornice, so the piece that is still having issues on the Belial courthouse that Renaissance Roofing is going to take care of.
Yeah.
Is that included in this price? So, or will that be an additional cost?
That'll be an additional cost. So we've got a change order that we've approved down here on the re-roof. Let's see, line number 71 is change order number 4, Belial Courthouse Terracotta Cornice Investigation. So we paid Renaissance Roofing money to pull it apart and shore it up, let us see inside what we've got, because this thing is loose and flopping around. It's a big problem. And we need to know how that thing is shored, because there's 7 more of them on the courthouse. We've been able to confirm that this one is, we're pretty confident it is not going to fall down like they did in Osceola. But we've still got to find the right solution. We've been dealing with the terracotta company, and structural engineer has been up on the scaffold to see it. And Renaissance Roofing to find the right method of putting it back in place. We're not there yet. So the figure that we paid so far was just time and shoring and just pulling this thing out carefully to open it up as far as we can to be able to see what we need to
Do we
see.
have any guesstimate on what we're talking there?
To put it back, I'm gonna guess about that same amount,
Okay.
$4,000 or $5,000.
Are we in a hurry now?
On the terracotta repairs?
Yeah, I want those repaired to repair.
Yeah, I don't want to delay anymore on the terracotta cornice. I want to go as fast as possible. On the other hand, I don't want to rush it and mess something up. So we are spending our time to make sure we're asking people everything. I want to make sure my structural engineer sees it, terracotta experts see it, Renaissance Roofing. So we're just trying to make sure that we're crossing our T's, dotting our I's, doing the right thing there. Well, we want to put it back so we don't ever have to worry about it again. But it's tricky because it's a huge piece that's in an awkward spot, and it's not easy.
Did you say we have 7 other spots? That
Yes.
Do we have the same problem in those other spots, or is it just one in particular?
There's one in particular, but we were able to find out that, yes, there is steel in that wall that is supporting this cornice. So we're pretty confident that all the other ones were built the same way. and that there's no risk of this piece falling off. It's more of a water problem.
So we'll be looking at, well, I'll say over the fix it.
I think so.
We don't have to
That's my best guess.
deal with the others right now.
Right, yeah, the other ones have already been repointed back and are back in place. They're not flopping around, they're solid, so it's not an issue on those other ones.
Okay.
We have been, for what it's worth, because of the scaffold, because the fact that Renaissance Roofing is finished, we've been up on that building enough and gone around the perimeter. There aren't any more surprises on the exterior, things that you can typically see. We're pretty confident in knowing everything there is to know about the building. So we've been through demolition. There's no more surprises in the way of, gosh, how much plaster is there repair? There's not that. We've got to get through asbestos and the glue, but I think we're getting that handled. So I feel pretty good that we're coming out of the ground, at least the footings and all. There haven't been any underground tanks or huge problems.
There was one.
There was one tank, but CNI hadn't come back and said, hey, that's going to cost you an extra $100
I was
grand.
more worried about getting a foundation for the jail than anything else.
So we put that in the drawings. Apparently they did not find the jail foundation. So
Yeah.
we haven't asked the question yet, but there's a legitimate credit, I think, to say, hey, we told you in the drawings that there's probably going to be a foundation here. You need to count on that, the cost of taking that foundation out. It turned out they didn't have to take
So
it
that's
out,
something we can look for, possibly got credit on.
possibly. Yeah. Yeah.
They'll raise the price somewhere else.
Correct. Yeah, that's how it
Well,
works.
tariffs are gonna hit you, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So,
You
Well, I
can't
feel,
win.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I feel a whole lot better about this than I did when I walked in.
Oh, me too, me
But
too.
I still wanna, I would like to look at going back to the original wrought iron doors,
okay.
see about screens, because
I think that's
I like
possible.
that look, and I think that it gives you better airflow.
Yeah,
Of course, in the winter, you may not want that airflow with the north wind, but
yeah. It's not, you're not hanging out in space, you're sort of in and out, kind of, yeah.
yeah, the thing of it is, that's a lot of money for dollars,
Yes, it is.
especially if we could accomplish the same thing for
Okay, the last thing, or you mentioned earlier today in the meeting that you were gonna put together a design board that had like the flooring and the paint colors and all those things.
Yeah.
So. when-
Yeah, so we've got all the submittals from the contractor on the floor tile, carpet, paint, all these decisions need to be made on finishes and all. We're to that point where we need to get those decisions made. So we need to know, we're looking to the judge, I think, unless we need to run it past y'all, but we do want to make those decisions on interior finishes so that we can release all that stuff. And once that, we do that first, and then we start to really nail down the furniture number.
So
So
you're-
it's time for our interior designer to re-meet with a lot of the county officials and people on furniture. This
That line 50,
Yeah, that's line 50, and that's based on, we don't have I could make yellow, we don't have a firm number, but we do have a pretty darn good estimate that I'm very confident that we're under that number, 750 for the furniture that we got in this project.
And we started out with $1 million.
Yeah, we started out at $1 million, we definitely could get what we need for less than 750.
that includes the courthouse furniture, the pews, or whatever, benches, whatever seating.
Yeah, now that's actually in the CNI bid, so the contractor is providing the pews and all, but the furniture budget is gonna be for office furniture like workstations and chairs.
New desk for the judge.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So we do need to get going on that, to nail that down. And we would like to do that and coordinate that with the finishes that are being selected, so.
Right, so basically the flooring and all those things, that's in the CNI bid, right?
Correct.
So, but then anything additional that comes out of the 750, I do think if y'all can speak, or y'all join in, I do think that's something that we would like to see before we.
Okay, yeah, so absolutely. Our interior designer, Amanda Benham with Cromwell, she has got a handle on that. There'll be a line item tables and chairs, and yeah, I'll ask her, yeah.
I think that would be great, but and once that, the design, the flooring and that board gets put together, I think we should be able to share that at one of the
Okay,
meetings.
all right,
So everybody will know
yeah,
how it's
yeah.
progressing.
Is Amanda the one that's directing the finishes, or at least narrowing the choices down? And
Yes.
that kind of stuff?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not bad at picking paint colors, but I do like to,
Well, I'm terrible.
I much prefer to have somebody else
Somebody else.
responsible for that.
I'm terrible. I just tell you.
When we have a meeting, can you give us an idea of how much you think you will need before, a month-to-month basis?
We're-
Pay out
Oh, I see.
anything
We're
that
gonna
comes
talk
out.
about that.
Money.
Because we want to appropriate enough for you to have it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely more of a CNI question, because since they're handling construction, they'll kind of know their own schedule, where they'll be at this point in time, based on what's going to be done. So that's a question for them.
Do you understand what we've done?
Yes. Well, I think so. You've got some of this bond money is in a CD, is that right?
Well, a portion of it, a little over $8 million is in a CD, and then a little over $5 million of it was actually appropriated where we could just write checks on a daily basis if that's what we needed.
Okay.
At the end of April, that was down to 4.2 million. We'd spent about $1.5 million, which we needed to. I mean, we were right on schedule. We got concerned about the lack of inclusion and oversight on the court's part. So at our last meeting this past week, this past couple nights ago, we reduced the appropriated portion by $3 million. And right now, if the financial department needed to write checks, she could only write up to $1.2 million on the basis of April 30th bills and stuff. Now, we've incurred 3 more weeks worth of bills and such since that point in time.
Gotcha.
And we're not expecting to meet again for another month.
Gotcha.
So we're down to, I don't know how much she spent or what the balance is at this point. Peggy's not here.
But you're gonna have invoices both from Renaissance Roofing. I think I just approved one payment application from them for mobilization, scaffold.
But we did not change the appropriation of the roofing for Osceola.
No, we didn't change that.
Okay.
Those appropriations still at $2 million.
Okay. All right. So,
But we want a projection from CNI and yourself about what do we need to appropriate at our next meeting? And I understand that, have we been paying late? I mean, just a direct question, have we been paying CNI late?
well, I don't, in general, no. I want to say that there was one payment application that slipped a little long. If memory serves, yes, there was one that slipped a little long after it was approved. I think there was one that I missed, frankly, which is my own fault. But I don't think there's been a...
Well, the reason I asked the question is before we came in, Molly said that in the CNI contract, that they're supposed to submit
Yes.
their request for funds by the 1st,
Yep.
and we're supposed to pay by the 10th.
Actually, it's the first Thursday after the 10th.
The first Thursday after the 10th, so that could be the 11th, or it could be the 16th, or something like that.
That was a change we made at the time we signed the contract.
So have we been timely, Porter,
I think
in
so.
making those?
Certainly, CNI has not complained at all about being funded.
Well, Molly was thinking, and I'm not putting anything on you, and correct
you're
me.
fine.
This is just based on what, as you and I were walking in, that we've made, we left 1.2 million appropriated, but we've made a $600 and something thousand.
And I think what we paid one of their draws after we after that, and so basically, what's our balance of appropriated money at the moment?
Approximately 638,000.
Of the moment.
And tomorrow we will pay the two pay apps that completes Renaissance's contract for Blyville in the amount of $62,637, which leaves $575,363. That's what
But is that, oh yeah, that's Blyville, so that is
Yes.
appropriate, yeah.
So our concern, mine and Molly's concern walking in the door just a while ago is, did we cut ourselves a little bit short on being able to make the CNI payment
Gotcha,
again?
I gotcha.
And
Yeah.
do we need to make a change or a move or something? So
Yeah.
we just kind of like to talk numbers and get a plan together. We want to be prompt and timely in what we do.
Right. Right.
But we want to hold the range just a little bit.
I understand.
Most of their draws, in my experience, have been pretty close to the same amount on the construction side. They'll generally do certain amounts at certain times.
Well, I think that's contracting them, Molly.
Why don't we look at doing this? Every time they make a draw, that's what we should appropriate out. We roughly keep $1 million in that account. So like maybe just do a draw for 600,000. And on that budget, maybe if nothing else, we appropriate that 600,000 back in.
But are we gonna have enough money
To do it.
to make
before.
their June 1st request?
It's,
Well, plus you have other expenses too, Aaron will be submitting.
Yeah.
Oh, and he don't care.
I would think he might.
well, yeah, but architects, designers do most of the work on the front end, you know, so most of our stuff is, we build you for most of our work, but our work for construction, yeah, we still send you invoices. We'll send you more for furniture and some of the interior stuff, but your bigger bills are gonna come from CNI. It's a question for them. They have to know, you know,
But I
what.
think, so I spoke with Jeremy Austin today from CNI, and he and I are going to talk again. He is going to get me something that he felt like in the next 24 hours of what June would probably look like. He felt like July would be much larger because that's when they're bringing in the steel. Is that?
Yeah, they have definitely picked up the pace. The steel is expected soon. They've started, the rebar's in the ground, concrete's being poured, framing is going up, subs are on scene.
So he felt like
Nothing yet.
maybe July's draw would be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 1.2 million.
And
So,
if we can get some kind of idea
Yeah.
like that out in the future, then maybe we could, we want to be timely.
I understand,
I think you
yeah.
need it every month or an anticipated amount a month ahead.
A month ahead is really what we need.
Okay, because that's going to be easier for them to calculate. For them to say, in 6 months, I'm going to build you this
No.
amount is,
No,
they
a
can
month
do it, but
ahead.
it won't be terribly accurate. Whereas if we can say June, we're about to have a June month application, which will be to the penny. And at that time, they'll have a pretty good idea that July 1, it will have steel, we'll have this much structural studs, we're going to have done this, that, whatever, and it's likely to be $1.3 million, or pick a number.
Doesn't have to be to the penny,
Okay.
just a generalization that's fairly accurate, that we can make a little price.
They can do that much better than they can.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's great.
For the following month, that would be, because they should have a little bit of plan there for, right?
Yeah.
but he felt like that's what, so that's what I was trying to make you guys aware of. So Jeremy is going to get that information for us. But in this month here, we will not only need to appropriate probably what's going to be spent in June so she can pay, but we should probably go ahead and start looking at July as well to ensure that we have, you know, because I feel like right now we don't quite have as much appropriated as we need to have a good cushion for things, you know, like the tower's going to come down, which that's not a big expense, but it's an expense. So those are things that we'll just need to think about. Hopefully by the next meeting, which I think we should have on June the 11th, I'll have a more kind of dollar figure of what I think we should appropriate. And I know Peggy also had talked with Aaron and CNI about how much she could put back into a CD for the next 6 months. So she's working on that as well.
I think you're really on top of it.
I don't know about that, but I appreciate that.
Aaron, I appreciate the good report.
Oh, you're,
I
Appreciate
very well,
you.
yeah, we're honored, you know, to be on this project. We've been on for it, just visited the county. It's a great project, so we're excited. We didn't hear anything.
Last thing before we leave, one last thing about the emergency squad building. Okay, so that money we appropriated to buy, so that will be on top of the 534 or whatever that number was she said. But once we have the building, or once we purchase the building, we're just gonna deconstruct the building. So is there anybody got anything they'd like to say about that at all?
You know, I think the judge has had a couple of different ideas and plans. I don't know what his current one is. We've got JT here, and JT, are you?
Yeah.
You up on what he's thinking right at the moment?
Yeah, we talked about it. There is the guy who is a contractor who's agreed to take the building.
He's not a Mississippi County resident.
No. He said some guy that does dirt work for a CNI subcontractor. He said that he would take the building down and just for the materials, basically. With the trash that's left inside the building, CNI, just to get rid of the problem, has said, well, they'll just take that trash and put it in their dumpsters. I talked to the emergency squad. I talked to Mike yesterday. They're completely out. It's the only thing left in the building is things that needs to be thrown away. What I wanted to make sure is that if we went that route where if we said, instead of having an excavator come in and tear it down, if there's this guy outside of the county that will do it for free, just for the material, then is that okay, basically? If everybody's on board with that, to get the building going.
Did you say you talked to Mike yesterday?
I did.
Have they gotten their money yet?
No, the judge told me today that what you guys passed is with Jeremy now for review and signature, and then it's going to get sent to finance either today or tomorrow, is my understanding.
We were going through the county court process,
Mhm.
and had to have a claim
That's right.
form sent in, and I think,
That's with Jeremy now.
Yeah, Jeremy has that. I CC'd to the judge and Jeremy.
so everything's with Jeremy, and if everything's okay, then the judge will sign off, and it'll go to finance tomorrow?
As soon as he gets it back from Jeremy.
Okay.
And so he was gonna call him this afternoon and see where he was on that. And then after that, and everything's finalized, he was gonna send it over to finance to get it paid.
Okay.
And so it's just when talking to Mike, he's under they're under the agreement that,
No, it's not.
everything in there is, they don't want it anymore. They've walked away.
I told them
the
to.
same thing.
I just
And I asked him, I said, so, y'all are done with the building, this is now technically Mississippi County's building. He said, yes, y'all's building, basically. So just finding out the best way to get rid of it that wouldn't cost us anything. And I think we can do this with CNI willing to take the trash and deal with disposal fees, which we could do, but, they've already got dumpsters on site. And then not having to pay for demolition, which we would have to pay somebody to take it down anyway.
All right, and last but not least, just to bring everybody up to speed, there are some law books left in the courthouse.
A lot.
2 pallets, yeah.
So, there has been talk with Mr. Coleman about removing those books, but they're still there. To remove them is about $1,500.
Here's my question, because if I'm not mistaken, do those not belong to the Bar Association?
They do.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Which is why she's talked to Mr. Coleman.
I have not. I think JT has talked with.
Several times.
are they gonna remove them?
So the original quote, 1,500 is kind of my best guess. The original quote was 25-ish. That was to move all of them, but we've gotten most of them, about half, moved out already, out of the way for demolition and things like that. Now there's some that are left in the middle of the courtroom floor, and he tried to get the jail to do it, to get the prisoners out to do it, but under their new regulations, the building has to be completely empty. Nobody in any floor. Which is not an option, obviously, at this point with all the construction going on. So he asked me last week or 2 weeks ago when we had the meeting that to get him the number of who we had originally got to quote moving all the books. And I sent that information to him, and he was supposed to be taking care of it, and I guess he has not. We sent the road department over there one day when they didn't have anything to do until like 10 o'clock that morning because of the rain, and we took a couple truckloads out. So they're just sitting there now. There's about 2 pallets left, and
So are they wanting to keep them, or?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Why don't we just get the guy to move them and take the money out of the law library budget? That sounds pretty simple.
I don't think you can take it without their approval.
But we can unappropriate it.
Okay, how big a problem is that causing for the construction company?
Beginning to get
Not much to get,
Well, there's
it's going to shortly.
and what
We're
we
trying to get
We
ahead of
need
it.
to give them a timeline.
Well, that's what we
maybe
talked
around
about.
a week.
At the meeting today, and a reasonable period of time to me would be give until June 15th. The other part that's happening is that construction is going on around it, and so dust is getting on them, and stuff's being stacked against it, so the value of them
That's
is
more of an issue of
That was
damage.
my concern was that they're not our problem, and technically, they need to get them out.
Exactly.
Well, and here's the thing, I mean, they've been made aware that they're there, they know that they need to be moved. JT has contacted them, we have not given them a firm date, but we certainly don't want it to turn into what we just experienced. So, if we could send them something, 15th would be a great time to have them out by, and if not, if that's, I'm certainly open
I
to
make
that.
a motion to have the attorney send them a letter telling them they need them out by the 15th, or we will start charging them rent for them sitting.
Well, it's revolving county funds.
Well, we can't guarantee.
I don't think they were. I think they were, the County Bar Association has, where they have to pay dues. I think they were bought by them.
Well, I know we have a line item there where
Yeah, there's
they get
a
so much.
certain fine that's dedicated to the rival law library. And they make regular withdrawals.
Yes.
Well, if they care about the folks, they need to get them out.
Yeah.
Basically. They're not gonna, nobody, like, it's not gonna, any construction worker may set his cup of coffee out and then it gets spilled or whatever, he knows not. I mean, like I said, it's not, they're not in the best environment right now.
If you would like, I could reach out to Mr. Coleman today, again, to see where he's at with that, and then report back to you.
Yeah, just tell him he probably needs to get them out by the 15th.
I think that June 15th is a fair amount of time, considering you've been talking to him, I think that's
I can do that.
You asked a question earlier about the building. I know I personally do not have, if it's gonna save us money for somebody to tear it down and move it, I don't have a problem with that. I don't know if anybody else does, but, and it needs to, I think there's a time factor here, so we can't just be trying to find somebody else to do it or nothing else.
JT, where are we on the tower?
Entergy finished putting their poles yesterday. That was what Ritter was waiting on, because Ritter has to take their line down and they have to have the new poles set in place where they can run them. So those got done yesterday. I talked to Ritter today to tell them that we're ready, you got to move your stuff. And they are getting in touch with Entergy's engineers to get all that going. We were hoping by this Saturday we could have it down, but they're not going to have it done by then. So either next Saturday or the Saturday after that, depending, we're going to do it on Saturday, obviously, so nobody's there, but to have them moved and relocated. And the way that we figured it, and I've met Mr. Goolsby out there again and met with Energy, is the way we're going to drop it is going to go to the northeast. So we're going to miss all the new lines. The only thing we have to do is have the current lines down and have one of the current poles down, which is going to be getting done here in the next couple of days. So it's really waiting on Ritter at this point.
How
So
close are they gonna be to the building that we're talking?
we got about 40 feet. So we got about 40 feet of wiggle room on the hitting the building. So,
Okay.
I would still want to see him hit that bucket.
which will be vacant, and the only thing the only kind of worry there is 40 feet, but the fiberglass antennas are what's going to stretch out the farthest. So I think if they even hit the building, it would probably just break those. But we're completely away from all other lines. We got the container out there moved, so I think we've got plenty of room, as long as my measuring wheel's right.
Before we dismiss, I would like to say something. I am glad, I'm a woman and I don't know too much about construction, but I am glad the men justice here asked you a lot of questions, and I'm glad that you explained a lot, because I was confused. Now, something like the chandelier, well, we have a better knowledge of what's going on. And I have a better knowledge of what's going on too. And maybe we can stop some of this nonsense talk in the community, since we know a lot.
Now that we've learned.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
This has been Chairman, this has been a learning situation for me. These gentlemen here, they got a little on me.
Okay, so if that works for everybody, we'll just meet again on June the 11th, and I'll have Cindy send out a time that works. All right, that's it. Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you.